I don't remember the exact moment I realized I was drowning. It wasn't dramatic. There was no breakdown in a bathroom, no crying on a hotel floor. It was quieter than that, more insidious. Like waking up one morning and realizing you've been holding your breath for years. Los Angeles had this way of making everything feel both too big and too small at the same time. The city sprawled endlessly, palm trees lining streets that stretched toward mountains I could never quite reach. But my world? My world had shrunk to the size of a recording booth, a makeup chair, a car with tinted windows. I was everywhere and nowhere all at once. That night, the night everything shifted, I was supposed to be at a label dinner in West Hollywood. One of those industry things with a capital I. White tablecloths, expensive wine, people talking about streaming numbers and tour projections like they were discussing the weather. My team had confirmed, my stylist had sent options, my publicist had briefed me on who would be there. But I couldn't do it. I texted my assistant something vague about not feeling well, turned off my phone, and slipped out of my house in Hancock Park wearing old jeans and a hoodie I'd stolen from someone years ago. I didn't even remember who. The studio I went to wasn't one of the big ones. It was the small spot in Silver Lake tucked between a vintage furniture store and a taco truck that stayed open until 3 in the morning. I'd recorded there once, years back, when I was just starting to find my voice, literally and figuratively. The owner, Marcus, was an older black man who'd worked with everyone from Stevie Wonder to Kendrick. He never asked questions. He just let you be. I showed up unannounced, and Marcus barely looked up from his mixing board. "Room 2's open," he said, like he'd been expecting me. I grabbed a bottle of water from the mini fridge and walked down the narrow hallway, past framed platinum records and photos of artists I'd grown up idolizing. The carpet was worn, the walls were painted a deep burgundy that should have felt dated, but somehow just felt warm. Room 2 was small. Just a keyboard, a mic, a couch that had definitely seen better days. I locked the door behind me, sat down on that couch, and finally let myself breathe. That's when the tears came. Not the pretty kind. Not the kind you see in movies where a single drop rolls down a perfect cheek. These were the ugly ones. The kind that make your face hot and your chest tight and your breath come in jagged little gasps. I was so tired. Tired of being looked at. Tired of being needed, tired of having opinions about my body, my choices, my voice, my silence. Tired of the headlines, the think pieces, the strangers on the internet who thought they knew me because they'd streamed my albums. I was tired of performing, not just on stage, but everywhere, all the time. And the worst part? I didn't know how to stop. I don't know how long I sat there, crying in that dim little room with the faint smell of old carpet and coffee. Time does this strange thing when you're falling apart. It either speeds up or slows down, and you can never tell which. Eventually, I heard a soft knock. I didn't answer. Another knock. Gentler this time. "Ree?" I recognized the voice immediately, even though it was muffled through the door. Rakeem, Rocky. The one person in this city who somehow always showed up exactly when I needed him to, even when I didn't ask. "Go away," I said, but my voice cracked halfway through, betraying me. He didn't leave. Of course he didn't. Instead, I heard him slide down against the door, settling on the floor just outside. We sat like that for a while. Me on the couch, him on the other side of a locked door, existing in parallel. "You don't gotta talk," he finally said. His voice was low, calm, like he was talking to a wounded animal. "But I'm not leaving you alone right now." And something about that, about knowing he was there, not demanding anything, not trying to fix me, just being present, made me stand up and unlock the door. He looked up at me from the floor, those dark eyes taking in my puffy face and tear-stained cheeks without a trace of judgment. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," I whispered back. He stood, brushed off his jeans, and without another word, pulled me into his arms. I crumbled. We ended up back on that terrible couch, me curled into his side, his arm around my shoulders. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't fill the silence with meaningless reassurances. He just sat with me, occasionally running his hand down my arm in slow, absent strokes that felt more grounding than any words could have been. Through the thin walls, I could hear the muffled bass of someone's session in another room. Hip-hop, probably. The kind with heavy 808s that you feel in your chest. In Los Angeles, the city never really slept. There was always someone working, grinding, chasing something. "You eat today?" Rocky finally asked. I had to think about it. I had coffee. That's not food. There were probably calories in the oat milk. He made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. "Come on." "Rocky, I can't go anywhere. You look like a human being who's been crying. So what?" He stood and held out his hand. "We're getting tacos from that truck outside. Marcus won't care." I let him pull me up, and we slipped out through the back exit into the cool October night. The air in LA had finally started to shift, that brief window between summer's relentless heat and the winter that never quite felt like winter. It smelled like night-blooming jasmine and car exhaust and something frying, probably those tacos. The truck was called Tacos El Gordo, and there was always a small crowd around it even at midnight. But Rocky walked right up, ordered in Spanish that was better than mine ever would be, and came back with foil-wrapped treasures and 2 glass bottles of Mexican Coke. We sat on the curb, and I took my first bite. Carnitas, cilantro, onion, a squeeze of lime. Simple. Perfect. "Better?" he asked. "Better," I admitted. We ate in silence for a while, watching the occasional car drift past on Sunset, a guy on a skateboard, 2 girls laughing, stumbling out of a bar. The city doing its thing. "You want to talk about it?" Rocky asked eventually. I picked at the foil wrapper. "I don't even know where to start." "Start anywhere." So I did. I told him about the dinner I'd skipped, about how every obligation felt like a weight I couldn't lift anymore, about how I'd wake up and already be exhausted by the thought of the day ahead, about the constant noise, the texts, the emails, the calls, the demands. Everyone wants something, and I get it. That's the job. That's what I signed up for. But I feel like I'm disappearing underneath it all. Like there's this version of me the world needs, and she's so far from who I actually am that I don't know how to find my way back. He listened without interrupting, just nodding occasionally, his eyes on me. I can't even remember the last time I did something, just because I wanted to. Not because it was good for the brand, or good for the album cycle, or good for the image. Just because it made me happy. "What makes you happy?" he asked, simply. The question stopped me cold. Because I didn't have an answer. Not a real one. "I don't know," I whispered. Rocky was quiet for a moment, finishing his taco, then wiping his hands on a napkin. When he spoke again, his voice was soft but certain. "You know what I think?" he said. "I think you've been strong for so long, you forgot you're allowed to be tired." My throat tightened. "You carried a whole island on your back, built an empire, gave voice to people who needed to hear someone like them winning. You did all that, and you made it look easy. But Robin," he used my real name, the one most people forgot I had. "You're human. You're allowed to rest." "I don't know how," I said, my voice breaking. "Then let me help you figure it out." Something in the way he said it, not like a promise he might break, but like a simple fact, made me believe him. We stayed on that curb until the taco truck closed down, the owner waving at us as he pulled away. The street grew quieter, just the distant hum of traffic on the 101 and the occasional siren echoing between buildings. "You know what's wild?" I said. staring up at the hazy LA sky where you could barely see stars through the light pollution. I have everything I ever wanted. Success, money, influence. I can do basically anything I want, but I feel more trapped now than I ever did when I was broke in Barbados. Rocky turned to look at me. That's because the cage is different. It's bigger, shinier, but it's still a cage. He got it. He actually got it. How do you deal with it? I asked. He shrugged. I don't always, but I try to remember that the person I am when I'm alone, that's the real me, not the version in the magazines or on the stage. And I protect that person, guard him, keep him close. And if everyone else wants something different, then that's their problem, not mine. I laughed a little, despite everything. Must be nice to have boundaries. You can have them too. You just have to let yourself. The place was Griffith Park, up near the observatory. Rocky drove us there in his vintage Mercedes, the one with the leather seats that smelled like old luxury and new cologne. The roads curved and climbed, leaving the density of the city behind until we emerged at a lookout point where LA spread below us like a carpet of lights. There were a few other cars up there, couples, probably, or people like us who needed to remember the city could be beautiful when you pulled back far enough. We got out and leaned against the hood, still warm from the engine. I used to come here when I first moved to LA, Rocky said, when shit felt too heavy. Reminded me I'm just one small piece of something way bigger. Does that help? I asked, feeling small. Sometimes. Takes the pressure off. I looked out at the city, the grid of streets, the clusters of skyscrapers downtown, the blanket of suburbs spreading toward the ocean I couldn't see, but knew was there. Somewhere down there were my house, my team, my responsibilities. But up here, for a moment, they felt distant. I've been thinking about taking a break, I admitted. Like a real one, not a 6 months then back to the album break. I don't know when I'm coming back break. So do it. It's not that simple. Why not? I laughed, but it was hollow. Because there are contracts and release schedules and investors and people whose jobs depend on me working. Because if I stop, even for a minute, someone else takes my place. Because the world moves fast, and if you're not moving with it, you're done. Rocky turned to face me fully. You really believe that? I have to. No, he said, you don't. That's the lie they sold you, that you have to keep going or you'll disappear. But you could do nothing for 5 years and still be Rihanna. You could retire tomorrow and still be legendary. You've already done the work. You've already proved everything you needed to prove. Then why doesn't it feel like enough? Because you're measuring yourself against something that's never satisfied. Fame, success, they don't have an end point. There's no finish line. You can always do more, be more, sell more. But if you keep chasing that, you'll never stop running. His words hit me like cold water, shocking and clarifying all at once. I thought about all the times I'd told myself, just one more album, just one more tour, just one more business venture. Always one more. Never enough. I'm scared, I said quietly. If I stop, what if I don't know who I am without all of this? Rocky reached over and took my hand. His was warm, rough with calluses from years of making music, living life. Then we'll figure it out together, he said. You don't gotta know right now. You just gotta take the first step. I looked at him, really looked at him. At the way his eyes held mine without flinching. At the way he stood there, steady, while I fell apart. At the way he'd shown up tonight without being asked, without needing credit, without demanding anything in return. Why are you doing this? Helping me? He smiled, soft and a little sad. Because I see you, Robin. Not Rihanna. You. And you're worth showing up for.
Something inside me cracked wide open. I didn't realize I was crying again until he wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. "I got you," he said simply. "I promise. I've got you." We stayed up there until the sky started to lighten in the east, talking about everything and nothing. About his childhood in Harlem, my childhood in Barbados, about the first time we each heard a song that made us want to make music, about our favorite foods, our worst fears, the dreams we'd had before the world told us what to dream. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like I wasn't performing. I was just being. As the sun rose over Los Angeles, painting the smog-hazy sky in shades of pink and gold, Rocky drove me back to Silver Lake. The city was waking up, joggers on the sidewalks, cafes pulling up their metal shutters, the smell of fresh bread from a bakery we passed. He pulled up to the studio, which was now locked and dark. "You gonna be okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I think so. Call me if you're not." "I will." But as I reached for the door handle, he caught my wrist gently. "Ree, that thing I said earlier about you being allowed to rest? Yeah. I meant it. You can rest. I've got you." And just like that, the phrase that would change everything was spoken. Simple, true. A lifeline I didn't know I needed. I leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Thank you."
Enjoying the story? Hit the like button, subscribe, drop your comment, and turn on the notifications. Let's keep going. The weeks after that night unfolded slowly, deliberately. I didn't make any grand announcements or dramatic exits. I just started saying no. No to the interview. No to the appearance. No to the collaboration that would have been huge for both of us. No. My team panicked, of course. Conference calls and worried emails and carefully worded interventions. But I stood firm, and Rocky, true to his word, stood with me. He started coming around more, not in a loud way, not in a way that fed the gossip blogs or fueled speculation, just present. He'd show up at my house in Hancock Park with coffee from that spot on Larchmont I loved. We'd sit in my backyard under the jacaranda tree and talk about nothing important. He taught me how to cook. Actually cook, not just order in or have someone prepare meals. We'd go to the farmer's market on Fairfax on Sunday mornings, both of us in hats and sunglasses, moving through the stalls like normal people. He'd pick out strange vegetables I'd never heard of and then figure out how to make them delicious. One afternoon, we made jerk chicken from scratch in my kitchen. I was in charge of the marinade, following a recipe he'd found that supposedly came close to the real thing. The smell, Scotch bonnets, allspice, thyme, transported me back to Barbados so powerfully I had to stop and breathe. "You good?" Rocky asked, looking up from where he was prepping the grill outside. "Yeah," I said, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand. "Just memories." He came back inside, wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Good ones?" "The best ones." We ate on the patio as the sun set, the chicken perfectly charred, the rice and peas fluffy and rich with coconut milk. It was simple. It was perfect. "This is what happy feels like," I said suddenly. Rocky looked at me, a smile playing at his lips. "Yeah?" "Yeah." And it was true. This quiet moment, just the two of us, good food, no cameras, no pressure, this was happiness. I'd forgotten it could be this simple. Over time, something shifted between us. What had started as friendship, as him showing up when I needed someone, deepened into something more. It wasn't a sudden realization or a dramatic confession. It was gradual, inevitable, like watching the tide come in. The way he'd reach for my hand without thinking. The way I'd catch myself looking for him in every room I entered. The way conversations at midnight turned into falling asleep together on the couch, tangled up in each other. One night, we were at his place in West Hollywood, a renovated loft with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He'd been working on beats, and I'd been sketching designs for a new Fenty line. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. He called me over to the studio setup he had in the corner. "Listen to this," he said, slipping headphones over my ears. The beat was gorgeous, smooth, soulful, with this haunting sample woven through it that felt like nostalgia and hope all at once. "Write something. For you. Not for an album or a single or anyone else. Just for you." I hadn't written anything personal in years. Everything was carefully crafted, focus grouped, designed for maximum impact. But the way he was looking at me, like he genuinely believed I still had something raw and real inside me, made me want to try. So I did. I spent the next hour scribbling in a notebook, crossing out lines, rewriting, finding my way back to the part of me that used to pour her heart onto pages before anyone cared to listen. Rocky worked on another beat in the background, giving me space, but staying close. When I finally sang it back to him, rough, imperfect, honest, his eyes got bright. "That's you," he said. "That's the real you." And he was right. It was. Later that night, as we lay in his bed, the city lights streaming through the uncovered windows, I turned to face him. "Rocky? Hmm? Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me, for not trying to fix me, for just being here." He pulled me closer, his chin resting on top of my head. "You don't gotta thank me for that. This is where I want to be." "Still, it matters. You matter." He kissed my forehead, soft and lingering. "So do you." And in that moment, wrapped in his arms, in this city that had once felt like a prison, but now felt like possibility, I understood something crucial. I wasn't broken. I hadn't lost myself. I'd just been buried under so many layers of expectation that I forgot where to look. But Rocky had helped me dig, had held the shovel when I was too tired, had reminded me that the person I was searching for had been there all along. People always want to know when you fell in love. They want the exact moment, the precise detail, the story they can retell. But the truth is, I don't think there was one moment. I think it was all the moments. It was Rocky showing up at that studio without being asked. It was him sitting on the floor outside a locked door. It was tacos on a curb and sunrise from Griffith Park. It was him teaching me to cook and listening to my half-formed songs and never once asking me to be anything other than exactly who I was. It was him saying, "I've got you," and meaning it, proving it, living it. We didn't announce anything. We didn't need to. Those who mattered knew. Those who didn't matter would find out when we were ready. Or they wouldn't, and that was fine too. I did end up taking a break, a real one. I stepped back from the noise and the demands and the constant pressure to be everything to everyone. And you know what I found in that space? Myself. Not the version of me that sold albums or built empires or graced magazine covers. The version who liked simple things, who laughed easily, who cried when she needed to, who trusted her own voice again. I found the girl from Barbados who used to sing in her bedroom, not because anyone was listening, but because the music made her feel alive. And I found something else, too. I found that love, real love, isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about showing up. It's about being present when someone is falling apart and not trying to fix them, just sitting with them in the mess. It's about seeing someone fully and choosing them anyway. Rocky showed me that, and in doing so, he showed me how to choose myself too. These days, I move differently through Los Angeles. The city hasn't changed, but my relationship to it has. I see the beauty now. The jacaranda trees blooming purple in the spring, the golden light at sunset, the murals in Echo Park that remind me art exists everywhere if you're willing to look. I still work, I still create, but it comes from a different place now. Not from obligation or fear of irrelevance, but from genuine inspiration. And on the days when I feel that old weight starting to creep back, when the noise gets too loud, I remember what Rocky taught me. I can rest. I am allowed to take up space without earning it. I am enough exactly as I am. And there's something profoundly powerful in that knowledge, because once you understand you don't have to carry the world, you finally have the strength to carry yourself. If you're reading this and you feel like you're drowning, like the weight of everyone's expectations is crushing you, like you've lost yourself somewhere along the way, I want you to know something. You can rest too. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to keep performing. You don't have to be strong every single day. You can be tired. You can say no. You can step back and remember who you are when no one's watching. And if you're lucky, you'll find someone who sees you, not the version you show the world, but the real you, the scared, tired, hopeful, messy, beautiful you. And they'll sit with you in that truth and say, I've got you. That's worth more than any amount of fame or success or approval. That's everything. Rocky taught me that on a random night in Los Angeles when I was too tired to keep pretending. And now I carry it with me everywhere. This quiet knowledge that I am held, I am seen, I am enough. And so are you. Rest when you need to. Speak when you're ready. Choose yourself. And trust that the people meant to be in your life will show up, not because you've earned them, but simply because they see your worth. That's the thing they never told me in all those years of climbing, that the view from the top means nothing if you've lost yourself getting there. But the view from the ground, when you're sitting next to someone who loves you, eating tacos on a curb, remembering what it feels like to be human, that view is everything. So here's to being human, to being tired, to being real. And here's to the people who remind us we're allowed to be all of those things. I'm grateful for mine. I'm grateful for Rocky. I'm grateful I finally learned to be grateful for myself. That's the story. Not the one the magazines will tell, but the true one. The one where a woman got tired and a man told her she could rest. And everything changed. If you watched until here, thank you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love reading your messages. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss another story like this. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. Any amount helps a lot. Link in the pinned comment.